Hola, my name is Neil. This is my YouTube channel Voice Up Neil. A big thank you to everyone who have subscribed, liked and shared my videos till date. This video is going to be regarding the current economic crisis in Sri Lanka. And if you need more information regarding what is happening in Sri Lanka, the links are given in the description box below. So without any delay, let's get started. The beautiful island of Sri Lanka is going through a rough time as an unpredicted economic crisis is taking place in this island. Annual inflation is in double digits and the rupee has plunged to a record level against the US dollar. Power blackouts for more than 10 hours are routine now. Fuel, food and medicine, which are the necessities, are scarce, and in addition even printing more paper have been a serious problem for the government officials, causing schools to cancel final exams. This caused some of the biggest protests in the country and troops have been sent to quell them. Moreover, recently Sri Lanka declared a state of medical emergency as there were severe drug shortages within the country. The government failed to ensure the supply of essential drugs within the country, and experts say that these can cause higher death rates soon. Sri Lanka has temporarily closed its embassies in Norway, Iraq and Australia. And the locals are protesting by saying Sri Lanka has become China's servant. The entire cabinet was effectively dissolved on the April 3rd due to mass resignation by the top ministers, and about 26 ministers dissolved that weekend, including the president's nephew, and just a day later the finance minister quit. The Rajapaksa government had borrowed billions of dollars from China to fund several infrastructure projects that were high on debt servicing and low on revenue earnings. Since 2010, Sri Lanka experienced a rapid increase in its foreign debt, comprising of 88% of the country's GDP. Furthermore, the COVID-19 pandemic caused a recession in Sri Lanka, causing its foreign debt levels to comprise of 101% of the country's GDP. There have been series of lockdowns, rise in the inflation rates, shortage in fuel and coal supply, and devaluation of the currency that have negatively impacted the economic growth rates. The government had promised deep tax cuts prior to its election campaign, making the amount to 8% from 15%. This caused a fall in the taxation revenue earned by the government and wiped out parts of the Sri Lankan economy. The pandemic had made the situation even worse, as the amount of tourist inflows have fallen. This has caused the tourism revenues earned by the government to fall, and the export earnings from tea and rubber have significantly fallen also. In March 2022, as the war between Ukraine and Russia happened, the international oil and wheat prices significantly drove up, and flights from Moscow have been kept on a hold. Before the war, Russians comprised of a larger proportion of the Sri Lankan tourists, with Ukrainians not far behind. These outcomes have forced the government to depreciate the rupee, as it is expected to save billions of dollars a year. The Sri Lankan economy grew at a rate of 1.8% during the fourth quarter of financial year 2021. Taking its full year growth to 3.7%. This was not to be expected, as the common people were told by the Sri Lankan Central Bank that the economy would grow at a rate of 5% for the year. Several organizations such as the World Bank and the IMF have urged the Sri Lankan government to seek additional help from its neighboring countries. In addition to this, the Rajapaksa government is holding meetings with the IMF for a bigger aid package. As of February this year, the country was left with only $2.31 billion in its reserves, and it had to make repayments of around $4 billion, including a $1 billion international sovereign bond which is maturing in July. Sri Lanka can seek help from the IMF, but it's not that easy. Yes, the IMF would bail you out, but they would also pose strict restrictions on you, such as large spending cuts, rising interest rates, cutting subsidies, and so on. Sri Lanka has tried an IMF bailout 16 times in the past, and only Pakistan is ahead in that list. Out of these 16 times, only 9 times were fulfilled and the rest were abandoned midway. So bilateral packages might be a better option, such as taking a loan of $150 million from Bangladesh, $2.5 billion from China, and $2.5 billion from India. These loans may help in the short run, but ultimately a major surgery such as an IMF bailout is necessary. But to get an IMF bailout, the first step would be appointing a finance minister who understands the current crisis well and can get Sri Lanka a good deal. Patience would be an important factor for driving these changes in the long run, which might pose some challenges for the common people of Sri Lanka. These might cause huge protests on the streets of Colombo in the future, which might force the police to use tear gas as well as water cannons to break the protests and impose more curfews in the future. This brings us to the end of the video. Please don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. Thank you for watching. Stay safe and healthy.